What's good, you guys? This your boy T-World back at y'all again with another reaction video. Today we are reacting to a video titled Comparison of the Most Painful Punishment. Link to the original video will be in the bio below. Without further ado, let's jump right into this reaction video. Let go. Let's see what
you said something wrong about the church in the Middle Ages, so the Inquisition is after you now. They've used a leather strap to secure a device that looks like a two-way fork with two sharp points on your neck.
Bro, why
One
take
of its sides
all
is
that,
pushing
bro?
against your sternum, and the other against your chin. At first, you tried to keep your head up to lessen the pain, but you couldn't stay like this for long. The so-called heretic's fork wasn't deadly, but made the victim suffer from the tiniest move. However, on the scale of pain...
Hold up, bro. I wonder who idea was it to come up with these things, bro. And you know what's even sadder? Some of y'all ancestry, if you go back and look, y'all were kin to some of these sick folks, man.
On scientific research, this kind of suffering gets only
these
27 points out of 140. In this video, you'll find out about the worst kind of torture in the history of humankind. So, viewer discretion is advised. You have at least a few times in your life been subjected to one of the less obvious kinds of torture. It's just that the executioner wasn't persistent enough when tickling you. In ancient China, this was the primary method of punishing delinquents from noble families, since tickles didn't leave any traces of torture on the body. And the victim...
Boy, I'm so glad they had that in this video. I be telling my wife that is the most torturous thing. Somebody tickling you, bro. Like, yeah, they put me in a tickle chamber. It's a wrap.
Was able to recover quite fast.
It's a wrap. I'm gone, bro.
Too far, of course.
For 2 hours.
In European countries, goats were employed as a torture device. The culprit was tied up.
Nigga bleed from the eyes because he laughing so hard.
Lick them. What's so bad about that, you might ask? It's just that there's an incredible number of nerve endings in the feet, and the goat's rough tongue would irritate them quite a lot. So, after a few hours, the tickle starts inducing not just laughter, but also painful muscle contractions. You lose virtually all control over your body, which causes extreme stress, anxiety, and exhaustion. Moreover, the nerve endings responsible for reacting to tickles also signalize pain. It's just that if we're being tickled for fun, and for a short time, our reaction to stress doesn't go beyond laughter. And
hey, we need to talk to the president about banning tickling, bro. It's inappropriate to me, bro. Like, it ain't...
light sensations in the body.
However,
if done for hours, this causes the nervous system such overload that the lightest touch causes unbearable physical pain.
Pass out because he getting
now,
tickled.
That it's not your feet being tickled. It's your private parts. In India, interrogation of criminals was accompanied by placing a small bug on the culprit's genitals and covering the insect with a walnut shell so that it didn't escape.
Bro, you know what they should have did? Everybody who was coming up with these sick inventions, they should have said, we're not going to use it unless we can test it on your ass first. That's what they should have did, bro.
Constant irritation of super sensitive areas caused by the bug's movements made the torture unbearable very quickly, and the executioners got any confession they wanted. Eventually, tickle torture would result in death by asphyxiation if the victim developed a throat spasm caused by uncontrollable laughter. Other possible outcomes were cardiac arrest or a brain aneurysm provoked by serious stress. Yet on the pain scale, tickle torture got only 32 points since the suffering it brought was mostly psychological.
They need to boost that up. That's a lie. That shit need to be at least a damn 90, bro. Hell nah, bro.
This is very similar to the next kind of torture, the Chinese water torture. Like, at first, the person was immobilized,
with a passion,
and then cold water would slowly drip onto their face or head. Gradually, the constant skin irritation caused by the drops and splashes would make the nervous system hypersensitive. The inability to move and the wait for the next drop would literally start driving the person insane. Maybe you've even seen this torture in movies. Here's the paradox, though. There's no proof that it was ever used in China. This kind of torture was first described by an Italian lawyer on the cusp of the 16th century. In the mid-18th century, German and French doctors attempted to use this method to cure mental disorders. Moreover, the very term Chinese water torture came into active use owing to a trick by the legendary Harry Houdini. So, does the water drop torture actually work? Since it can look harmless at first glance, a few bloggers have dared to try it out themselves. The water drop torture was also tested by the Mythbusters. All participants knew they were actually perfectly safe and could be freed at any moment. Yet everyone went through a hellish experience. At first, the experimenters suffered from cold, thirst, psychological tension, and physical discomfort. Then their entire bodies started aching, and breathing problems arose. It all ended in a panic and desperate pleas to be released.
That is the worst.
In addition, after this episode, the Mythbusters received an anonymous letter whose authors reportedly found out that the Chinese water torture may cause mental issues that persist for 20 hours. So, on the pain scale, the water drop torture received 40 points, and a huge question as to whether it was
I don't care what y'all say,
practice,
bro. That shit ain't higher than tickling, bro.
Much
oh, now this
cooler
is
kinds of water torture. One of them was the Swedish drink. This name was invented by the Germans. During the 30 Years' War, they became victims of the Swedish army servicemen, mercenaries, or marauders. This method of torture went as follows. Through a funnel, the perpetrators would pour buckets of the most disgusting liquids imaginable into the victim's throat. They used everything from urine and filth to manure and
sewage
feces.
water.
This was the Swedes' way of torturing the civilians, to force them to give up their money or food. Not only did the victims feel disgust and humiliation from being subjected to the Swedish drink, they also contracted deadly diseases. Furthermore, their stomachs stretched, causing horrific pain.
It's in my pocket,
the perpetrators would often use wooden planks to put pressure on the victim's bloated belly, or hit it with sticks to deepen the suffering. So, on the pain scale, the Swedish drink got 46
Them niggas were
points
tripping,
out
boy.
of a possible 140.
Well, I'm telling y'all, bro.
Very often, one kind of torture ranged from public...
Some of these torturers is in y'all bloodline, bro. You better make sure you ain't... Ancestry.com. Get on there and look. See what your folk done invented out here, bro.
Real, accompanied by intense discomfort, to a death punishment with unbearable suffering. One of such hellish inventions.
This the history they be trying to hide, right?
It's a
here.
large board consisting of two halves with a hole between them, used to keep the device on a person's neck. The king wasn't secured in any way, so the culprit had to support the board with their hands and balance it while walking. To intensify the punishment, the person in a king could also be chained, stopping them from ever sitting down. Moreover, the king's parameters would change according to the severity of the punishment. It could weigh anywhere from 9 to 15 kilograms and have a square, rectangular, or disproportionate, irregular shape. Sometimes they were even double or triple. Often a king would be so large that the victim would be unable to touch their face to eat or drink.
All this shit,
if they weren't helped by those who cared, the victim would die a slow death of hunger and thirst. Yet the king was also used as an execution device. The convict was placed inside a tall cage made specifically for this purpose. A king would be secured above. Then, a prop would be taken from under the victim's feet, and they would slowly be strangled with the board on their neck. That's how people were executed in China as recently as 1900, suffering excruciating pain. On the pain scale, king torture sits at 62 points. However, even this horror is far from being the worst thing people ever came up with.
And the Grammy nomination goes to Lazarus the Fall for the torture chamber. Like,
Europeans during the Middle Ages were especially creative in their acts of cruelty.
Who want to be
it was
great
then
at
that they invented and actively used a
bro.
contraption called
I'm gonna go down
the Judas
in history
Cradle.
for torturing.
It's a spiky wooden or metal pyramid secured on a support with a special clamp over it. First, the victim's arms and legs were tied, and then their trunk was secured with a metal ring attached to the ceiling or the wall with ropes.
What type of tiny niggas on, boy? Who just sit there and come up with this shit, bro?
I won't go into the horrific anatomical details, since it's clear anyway that the process caused unbearable pain.
Come on,
Moreover,
dog.
Such torture could go on for days.
I'm telling you, bro. Bro, they should have made whoever invented this shit tested first. They lucky I wasn't governor or whoever ran shit back then, or the king of whoever they brought the ideas to, because I would have said, yeah, we want to test it on you to make sure it worked. And if you would have been like, nah, and shit, I would have said, well, go put that shit up then. Like, bro, like, who want a damn pyramid up the
If the executioners wanted to receive a confession or other information, but the victim remained silent, they tied weights to their arms and legs, causing the pyramid edges
like
to
all
gnaw
this
at
shit
the
ain't
poor
enough. They
person's
gotta
body even more. As if that wasn't enough, the Judas cradle was never cleaned, so it became the breeding ground for deadly bacteria. So, even if the victims managed to survive, they often died of infections. At any rate, they remained scarred physically and psychologically for the rest of their lives. That's why the Judas cradle received 79 points on the pain scale.
And they were doing little shit to get all this torture. You can get all this. You can get level 79 for trying to just steal some dang some rice or some bread or some shit. They don't want to put
the first device to go beyond 100 in our list.
Still, I ain't gonna lie though. Let's go back a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. Hey, that tickle machine, that shit, boy. To me, that shit about a 65.
First device to go beyond 100 in our list.
That damn feather on the toe?
It's a horizontal tunnel with the only way out in the form of a grated opening above, used as a dungeon. Often, it was so narrow that the prisoners couldn't even sit down. Moreover, oubliettes were built right there in the castle so that the victims could hear human voices and smell the food, causing them even more psychological suffering. Yet, the real torture was the fact that the prisoners were literally forgotten about in these holes, and they slowly died of thirst, hunger, exhaustion, and infections. Compared to this, a Judas cradle execution was a swift way to relieve one's suffering. The oubliette is a kind of immurement, which has been practiced since ancient times on all continents.
People were coming up, and this shit was actually cool
who had broken
to
their
do
virginity
it
pledge were sentenced to death. It was against the law to shed their blood, though. So they were immured alive, fated for a slow, desperate death. If you think this insane practice remained in days past, you're wrong. In Mongolia, this barbaric execution method was still in use until at least 1913. So immurement in its different variations receives 108 points on the pain scale. But what if you're not alone?
I ain't going in there peacefully.
Then it's an entirely different kind of punishment. Rat torture. As far back as in the 1st century AD, the cruelest emperor in the history of the Roman Empire, Nero, used rats to torture those who fell out of favor. They say he put the victim into a barrel with hungry rats who quickly ate
we
the
would have
person
dethroned Nero.
In India, they made criminals wear wide pants, which were first tied around the ankles and then filled with rodents. Any ideas as to which body parts suffered the most and how painful it was? However,
hell no.
Medieval torturers took it even further. They tied the victims down to immobilize them.
These niggas getting sicker and sicker at the boy. What the fuck? I done clicked on today, boy.
They put hot wood coal on the grates, and the rats became unbearably hot. First, they tried gnawing at the cage in desperate attempts to escape. Later, though, the rats realized they were standing on a soft human body and started eating their way out through it. Sometimes the cage was put on the victim's head, near the mouth.
Hey, yeah, boy. All right, yeah. I'm going to do my research myself. Hey, I'm telling y'all, boy. Whoever invented this is in somebody's bloodline today. Yeah, boy. Bro, I don't think a nigga going to heaven who made this contraption or whatever you call this shit, boy. I don't think nigga going. I ain't judged. Whoever made this shit ain't going to heaven, but I don't know. That's up to the big man. But I'm just guessing. Damn rat to the face cage. A corona rat mask? Yeah.
Or other body parts. I'll let your imagination fill in the details.
If I find out my great granddad made some shit like this, boy. Yeah, we erasing his ass from history, bro. That nigga ain't kin to me, boy. With some sick shit like this.
Horrible
Rat
thing is
mask,
probably the
face
fact
head
that in
ass.
South American
Come
countries,
on, bro.
rat torture was in use until
Nigga
the
ain't do shit that
1880s.
damn bad
It
to get a
received
damn rat mask to
112
hit to the
points on the
face.
pain scale. It would seem that there's nothing worse than this. But before we get to the most
fuck? They had a
horrifying
damn
tortures
torture
that scored the
competition, bro.
maximum of 140 points, there are still 2 more devices. The first of which is the rack. This is another
rack.
deadly invention of the Middle Ages. It looked like a wooden frame with rollers on both ends. The person's limbs were tied to them, and when the
Stretch a
torturers
nigga
would
like
start
some
turning the
damn
rollers,
Play-Doh
the
or
victim's
some
arms and
chewing
legs
gum.
would stretch in different directions. This caused unbearable pain due to joint displacement, muscle and ligament ruptures, and, in the most horrific cases, even bone fractures. The executioners could torture the victim like this for hours or even days
That
to beat the
nigga
confession
hey, y'all
on
see Buddy
fractures.
standing back there?
The
He acting like
executioners-
he invented that shit. That nigga like this. Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy. Hell
Could
nah,
torture the
boy.
victim like this for hours or even days to beat the confession or the necessary information out of them. Sometimes, a specifically trained
They need
person
to
would
put
supervise the victim's
everybody who
condition
invented
to keep
this
them
shit,
conscious
who
and
are
alive before a
watching, they need
specific
to
time.
throw their ass on
So,
their own
it's
shit.
unsurprising that just threatening someone to send them to the rack would often be enough to obtain the necessary information. This horrible type of torture received 116 points on the pain scale. However,
I don't
citizens of
think. Wait. Would you rather leave this in the comments below? Would you rather have a rat eat through your damn chest or your face, or you rather get stretched? If you had to choose one, we'll wait. You feel me? So let me know.
ancient Greece managed to outperform even the cruelty of medieval European torturers, being the creators of one of history's most terrifying torture devices, the brazen bull. According to stories, it was built by an Athenian named Perilos as a commission for a Sicilian tyrant, Phalaris, in the 16th century BC. It was a hollow copper statue of a bull with a hatch on its side. A person would be pushed inside, the hatch would be shut, and then the torturers would start a fire under the bull's belly. Furthermore, the statue's nostril structure made the victim's scream sound like the bull's bellow. Yet this barbarism was apparently not enough. So after the execution, the victim's bones were used to make jewelry to then be sold on markets. The inventor of this hellish machine realized very quickly that doing business with tyrants was a bad idea, since the first person Phalaris tried out the brazen bull on was Perilos himself.
Oh, what I tell you? I told you that shit was gonna happen. Nigga done made some shit that they gonna test it out on, boy. Look, I'm telling you, bro, that shit should have been everybody who invented one of these sick things fate. If you make it, we using it on you first. And if you don't want it used on you, don't make the shit. See, your boy ain't know they were gonna throw his ass in that damn oven.
First, the man's skin
Easy
started
bake
burning
oven.
in the places where it touched the metal. Then, the hot air
I
gradually
bet you he
burned his
thinking
air
I shouldn't even
and
made this
lungs.
shit.
He
Yeah,
went
they
on
got
to
you in it
slowly
now,
cook
boy.
alive before choking to death or going unconscious. Before this, though, Perilos went through the agony that reached 130 points on the
Yeah.
pain scale.
Yo, yo,
Even
ass
this
with- yo,
horror, though, won't compare
he
to the
looking at
fate
that
of
shit
those
like, why did
sentenced
I put it together?
to
Yo,
Ling Chi. It's definitely one of the most barbaric
out here
punishments
making
in
torture
humanity's
devices.
entire history. And it hails from Asia.
who want to
It
go
was
down in
used in
history
China,
for
Vietnam,
torturing people,
and Korea
though, bro?
right until the early 20th century to punish perpetrators of the most heinous crimes like mass murder and high treason, as well as to eradicate the emperor's personal enemies. It comes as no surprise since the victim would be tied to a pole in a crowded space to turn the execution into public humiliation.
Like I
Then,
said, boy, nigga like that'd be somebody great granddaddy, boy.
a few torturers would
Hey.
slowly cut pieces of flesh out of the convict's arms, legs, and chest. We
Shit
know from
sickening,
historical
boy.
records that during Ling Chi, the victim would suffer from 100 to
These
3,000
nigga
wounds.
pinching on buddy.
That's why this torture is also dubbed death by 1,000 cuts. Although the experts state that with such wounds, a person would most likely die within 20 minutes. Sometimes the families of the victims would bribe the executioners to inflict a deadly wound right away. This wouldn't remove the victim's physical pain, but it's worth remembering that for the Chinese, Ling Chi was also a spiritual punishment. According to their beliefs, this disfigurement of the body wouldn't allow the victim to be whole and healthy in the afterlife. This horrific execution method officially remained in use in China until 1905. This type of torture received the most points on the pain scale,
sick now.
140.
Look,
I've told you all this exclusively for educational purposes and
Jesus.
to tickle your nerve.
Hey, Jesus ain't torturing niggas like that. Y'all niggas, the shit y'all be believing in. Jesus ain't torturing niggas out here, boy.
But I hope it didn't reach
Not
torture
like that.
level. If you enjoy experiencing extreme sensations without putting yourself in danger, you'll find many exciting videos on my channel.
Hey, bro. I'm shaking. Some of y'all folks sick, boy. I can't say it. Can't say it no other way. Some of y'all folks sick, boy. That shit trace back to it's in your DNA. It's in some of y'all DNA. That flaw shit. I'm trying to tell you. That create torture device shit in your damn DNA. But hey, man, thank y'all for watching. Make sure you stay tuned. More heat coming soon. And we out.